Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Knock&Talk show. I am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and this is episode number 3. Today, we've got Dakota Hanks with us. Dakota is a police officer out in Oklahoma, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is the OK state or the Show Me state. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dakota started his career in 2017 in Oklahoma. Buddy, welcome. Glad to have you on the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the chance.
Yeah, man. So tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into law enforcement? What drove you in that direction? And are you enjoying it?
So for starters, I was never interested in becoming a cop. Like if you'd have told me 4 years ago that this is where I'd be, I'd have probably laughed at you and walked the other direction. So my dad was career military, retired from it, and that was more or less my direction that I wanted to go. Everything he did, that was wanted to follow in the footsteps, you know.
Okay.
Uh, so I'd enlisted my senior year of high school, shipped out shortly after I graduated, and I was medically discharged prior to graduation for
Oh,
a
wow.
disqualification that I had. So I did all my time at MEPS, had the waivers, everything. I actually waited like 6 months before I went and tested, before I actually shipped out. And so I had some hardware in my leg that more or less was a disqualification for the MOS I had selected. So they sent me packing.
So your dad, I had sent you a pre-show questionnaire, like I send all the guests, and you had mentioned that your hero was or is your father. Is he still with us?
He is, yeah.
Oh, good. That's a blessing. I lost my father a couple of years ago, and he too was my personal hero. So make sure you get to those family dinners as often as you can, because
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, there's not guaranteed to be a whole life full of them. So so what did he do in the military?
It's more or less a jack of all trades. We didn't really have a relationship at the beginning of his career. Uh, you know how separated parents can be. One's always
Yeah.
got a vendetta against the other. So I didn't actually have him in my life until I was about 9 or 10. We actually met at a funeral. uh,
Wow.
and the first point of contact that I actually had with him, he was on his way to Kuwait, and I got a letter in the mail that was, "Hey, surprise, I'm your dad," and so that was kind of what
Wow.
kicked things off. So up until I was about 10, didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge about what he was or who he was. Uh, then towards the end of his career, he'd wound up breaking his neck on deployment, and military gave him a desk job as a career counselor in the Army. So he spent the last couple of years that I can remember as a career counselor, helping transition active duty to civilian and such like that. I don't know the whole technical thing for it, but from my experience in his career, that was really all I remember him as was.
My father was in the Army as well, and but he was in the Army National Guard, and he had completed his tour of service before I was old enough to know any better or any different. But I joined the Air Force after high school. Actually, about a year and a half of community college. I had an uncle that was retired Air Force, and I moved to Birmingham to live with my grandfather after my grandmother passed away. And it didn't take long listening to his stories of World War II for me to get interested in joining the military. So you ended up answering a job application posting. Was it on like Indeed or Monster or newspaper?
It was actually on Facebook.
It was on Facebook.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a relatively small town. I think fully staffed. They're about a department of 12, and
Okay.
that's including administration. Uh, so I was a welder here in Medill at the time, and I was getting really burnt out on it. I'd done it throughout high school, and even after I graduated and come home, and So I was looking for something else to, I guess, find my calling.
Sure.
Uh, and my wife, she'd known how serious I was about trying to re-enlist, and seeing that we couldn't, and it wasn't a possibility. So she flat out told me, she's like, "You'd be extremely stupid not to at least just apply for it." So I owe pretty much every bit of my success in my career to my wife telling me to quit being stupid and stubborn. So
Well, they say behind every great man, there's a better woman. So, and my family's that way too. My wife is amazing, very supportive, and I wouldn't have nearly the successes in life since we've been together if it weren't for her. So, kudos to the police officers' wives and or spouses, significant others, because we are who we are because you support us. So thanks. Little shout out to the family members. So tell me, you've actually worked at a couple of different departments, correct?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And in the questionnaire I sent you, you had mentioned that you've worked both the overnight hours as well as day shifts. Tell me something that really stands out from your overnight shifts. Something that something that you share with your buddies when you're hanging out at the barbecue, drinking a beer or bourbon. Hopefully not White Claw.
No, absolutely not. I would say, man, that's a whole different animal. The
Yeah.
people are crazier, the calls are crazier. Um, Both of my previous departments, I worked for municipalities, and they really didn't have a whole lot of calls on midnight shift. So if we were getting into anything, it was traffic stops or just roadside contacts. And I come to my department now, and there's just so much more proactivity uh, on nights from what I experienced when I first started at this department. Uh, Days, man, we're straight just booking calls. Do anywhere from 200 to 300 miles a shift, depending on where the calls are going. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, man. It's a whole different ball game when the sun goes down.
Yeah. So you're currently on a reservation now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me what that's like. I mean, you've worked for Small Town USA, and now you're on a reservation. And I've never met a tribal police officer before, so there's got to be some differences between local or county level and being a police officer on a reservation.
So when I started with my current department, uh, we had the Supreme Court ruling hadn't come down yet. So really, all of our other agencies still had the jurisdiction to deal with natives. And about a month into my training in my department, the Supreme Court ruling come down, and all these agencies that didn't carry a cross commission agreement with us had no jurisdiction.
Oh wow.
So really, that's really the only thing that's different for me is I'm not used to the call volume. My department prior to this, I would do 15 to 20 traffic stops a shift just because we had 3 miles of jurisdiction. So really the only thing that's changed is the cooperation with other departments on what they can and can't do, simply because of not having that agreement. But ultimately nothing too extreme. I mean, they still work pretty well with us. It all just the only thing that really changes is where the citation goes. Just a different court system. So it's
So does the sheriff have jurisdiction or venue inside the reservation?
they do if they carry a a cross commission agreement with us with our department that solidifies their jurisdiction over Native Americans. They can still handle calls over non-natives, so you'll still see them responding to those calls. You you won't see them if they don't carry our agreement and it involves a native, uh, unless it's some type of exigent call where we feel that we need the assistance or we're too far away to get there in time. So we still all have a really good relationship. Like I said, it just dictates on what kind of calls they can and can't take, depending on whether they do or don't have an agreement.
Do you have multiple sheriff's offices within the boundaries of the reservation?
So with the Chickasaw Nation, we have 13 counties.
Wow.
I have the lower 5. So I believe all of our counties but one, I could be wrong, do not have a cross commissioner with us in my assignment. So the lower 5 counties. But even then, they still keep a really good rapport. Even if they don't have the ability to handle the call, if we need them, they don't hesitate to come running. So we're still really fortunate to have that relationship outside of them being barred more or less on what they can and can't do until we get there. But ultimately, the goal's still the same, and it kind of holds its weight.
Yeah, sure. All right. So, have you earned a nickname yet? Because you're only 4 years in, and I'll tell you, in the departments I've worked at, you're out of the academy, you're considered a rookie until that point where you get into a fight and you've had your ass handed to you, and at that point, you're no longer green or rookie status. So, but in this time, have you earned a nickname?
I don't think I've earned a nickname at this department. Going back to my other 2 departments, they're both relatively small. So we get pretty close with our dispatchers and our sheriff's office. I mean, it's all at the end of the day, it's all one big family.
Sure.
So our dispatchers are all well off on their way to retirement. So all the old people can bake, right? And anytime there's a national police day or anything that recognizes one or the other, they're always bringing like the old recipes out, making some kick-ass food, and they'll bring it up to dispatch. And we had one dispatcher in particular that made like a big batch of cookies. And I was the only one working nights at my first department, so of course I get the call to, hey, come pick these cookies up, take them back to the department. So my nickname for the longest time, and still has been for my other 2 agencies, is Cookie, for some god awful reason, other than the fact that I just went and picked up a batch of freaking cookies. I catch a lot of shit.
It's never a name you want. It's never a name you want.
No. I catch a lot of crap because, like I said, I'll be 26 the beginning of next month, and I've got 7 kids. So there's a reason I park on the curb and not on the driveway. Just I can't back out of the driveway.
Okay.
So I haven't earned a nickname for that yet, but I catch shit for it quite often.
7 kids, but you've been busy.
Well, I didn't have a TV in my room until I was about 16. So
Okay.
I didn't play sports either.
Uh-huh.
I had to fill the time.
I understand. So, but now we understand what causes that, correct?
And you can bet I've got a TV in every room.
Very, very good. Very good. Wow. All right. So, in my notes here, it says that you've been interviewed by the local news. What was that about?
So at my previous department, I worked for Kingston Police Department. We have about 3 miles of jurisdiction, fully staffed department of 7. I was working an evening shift one afternoon, and we had a call of an abducted juvenile female. So I was able to make contact with parents, was able to get statements, and from the time that I had contacted my dispatch with the BOLO information, I had the time to drive about 6 blocks, and I had been notified by my dispatch that Highway Patrol had the vehicle stopped on Interstate 35 northbound towards Oklahoma City, and they had suspect in custody, and my juvenile was removed from the passenger seat, all within about the time frame from initially her going missing until they found her. It was about 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
So I was interviewed, but I still say to the day that I can't take credit for the call. All I really did was took the report. If it wasn't for the highway patrol and the other agencies that had assisted in stopping the car, she may have never been found. So I did the report, and they were boots on the ground and got the job done. So that was my only interaction with an interview. Uh, and again, to this day, I don't try to take any credit for it whatsoever, other than the fact that I was fortunate enough to get the call.
To get the juvenile cookies?
No, I did not.
That's one of the departments I worked at was also very similar to that. 2.5 square miles, and it was a 7-man department that included the chief, the assistant chief, which was also the investigator, and the patrol commander, which was a lieutenant, and then 4 rookies. And it was a lot of fun. There was not a traffic light in town. It was literally like Mayberry. It was awesome. I was the only one when I worked the midnight shift at that department, and I was always the only one in my uniform. So if I put out either a help call or request a second unit, somebody from a different uniform showed up. But man, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't had anything too crazy at my current department. We have jurisdiction over majority of the casinos within. I say majority, all of the casinos and property. Anything that you roll through Oklahoma and sees Chickasaw Nation on, we're going to be there. So we have a lot of jurisdiction at the casinos, and I get a lot of stuff on traffic stops at my previous department, but at my department now, just being able to walk through the parking lot, you can see something just in plain sight. These people, they just don't care. So we see a lot more dope than I'm used to, which was always my favorite thing to look for. Growing up, I had a lot of family that struggled with drug usage and addiction and all sorts of substance abuse. So coming into law enforcement, that really wasn't something I had a tolerance for. So I feel like that's where my niche. I feel like that's my niche in my career now. Is I get that one smell, and man, it's an adrenaline dump from hell, and I feed on it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of feeding on, our first little plug for Raz Energy. This is the Apollo. This is our sponsor, Raz Energy from Rep Sports. Zero sugar, so there is no sugar rush dump at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, and if my wife finds out that I'm drinking that, I'll sleep on the couch.
Well, I was about to say, if you haven't tried it, you should. However, unless your couch is extremely comfortable, I would refrain.
I'm going to say it's completely worth it.
Okay. All right. We have 2 couches, and one is very comfortable. The other one is not very comfortable. So it would depend on what side of the house I ended up getting out to. But repsports.com, Raz Energy drinks. Here on the scrolling bar right there, you can see Pat Raz is your code for 15% there. Plug number 1. All right, so there's got to be some great stories coming out of the casinos. I mean, people drunker than Cooter Brown, dumping quarter after quarter or nickel after nickel in the one-armed bandits. And I mean, how many people have you been called on or either stumbled into coming out of the casinos? There you are.
There we go. Man, my internet, it's not feeling it today.
Well, it's not Monday, so we can't blame Monday. Do you have all 7 kids on an iPad back there? Are they all draining the bandwidth?
Man, I've got my 2 toddlers at home, and they're about as tech savvy as I am. So most times I have to pry the TV from them.
All right, so I was asking, there's got to be some good stories coming out of the casinos. People um, dumping all their money in the one-armed bandits or on the craps table and then just losing it. I mean, how many times have you been called inside the casino to fix something?
Uh, Man, believe it or not, we don't. I don't get many calls inside the casino. Uh, Most times our security's pretty good at policing their own and doing work before we have to get called. I would
Well, that's
say,
good.
oh yeah, man, it's crazy. I believe I was listening to our brass one day talking about numbers as far as like population, and in like a 24-hour period, my casino can see like 90,000 people.
Holy
So
smokes.
it's booming. Uh, Man, most of our crazy stuff it comes off the interstate, or we're working accidents in the parking lot. Uh, I had a guy right when I started. Uh, so my previous two departments, we didn't have many people that like to play dumb. So that if you told them to stop, they stopped. Uh, we had this guy that he tried to steal a coin off the blackjack table and was going to try and buy beer with it. And the dealer's like, "Look, man, you can either put it back or you can pay for it. We're going to kick you out anyway." And this guy was sauced. I mean, absolutely just flat out hammered. Um, so I was still in my FTO phase one at the time, and my FTO is a tower compared to me. And so you've got this little 4 foot nothing guy that's drunk off his ass and feeling all sorts of ways. I mean, pretty much just giving my FTO the what for, and got so excited that he actually put himself on the ground and couldn't get up once he was flat on his back. I mean, he just couldn't move until the cuffs came on, man. And then it's like every bit of stupid come back to him. And
Mm-hmm.
so we found out that here in Oklahoma you can buy kratom, and I'd never heard of it before. I guess it's like an herbal supplement,
Yeah.
like a dietary supplement. But abused in dosage, it can give you like a meth or a heroin high.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy had like 3 bags of it in his backpack, and they were all empty except for enough to piss off a homeless person. And he didn't have any issue with us, but we get him to the county jail, and they call us and they're like, "Hey, y'all gotta come help with this guy. He's going nuts." Apparently, he like stripped down out of his jumper, freaking crapped in his hand, started smearing it on the wall, and all sorts of stuff. So I haven't had the crazy stuff. Fortunately, my jailers, on the other hand, they get the better half of most of my calls.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I actually recorded episode number 2 yesterday with a former sheriff's deputy, and I had asked him what was the grossest thing that he's ever had to encounter, the nastiest, grossest thing, and he brought that up that sometimes inmates will drop a load in their hand and then smear it across the walls or the windows or themselves, and that's really nasty.
Yeah, yeah. They again, not our crazy calls, man. They come from our counties. Uh, Typically, we don't get much crazy at the casinos. I've got a system on day shift. I'm a big coffee drinker. If I don't start my shift off with coffee, I'm probably sick. So,
Okay.
I start my shift in the morning, get fuel, get coffee, and everybody knows, hey, I'm not ready to take calls until that first cup of coffee is about halfway gone. Uh, so if I don't get that system done, man, it's a bad day. And went 10-8, got myself in my car, and as soon as I started my car, I had a domestic with shots fired. It's 9 o'clock in the morning,
Mhm.
and so this call is like an hour and a half from my front door. So I'm running lights and sirens, hour and a half to get to this call, and
Holy smokes.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of our calls, man, we're booking it to get there, which is why we're fortunate that even without that cross commission, our other agencies still have enough of a rapport with us to help us out, pick up that slack.
An
So
hour and a half.
yeah,
God, our admins get like stupid crazy if your average is over 15 minutes.
yeah, it's yeah,
I can't
yeah,
I can't imagine what that would be like running code for an hour and a half. I mean that I would assume you'd have to turn the music up to drown out the siren.
yeah, yeah. So it's fortunate that we have work issued cell phones because man, mine had seen better days in the middle of that call trying to find my playlist. And for some reason, man, I didn't get gas, I didn't get coffee, I couldn't find my music, so it was a rough drive.
I imagine. Yeah,
Man, I
geez.
roll up. It, so I get there, man. There's like 4 county deputies, and there's this unmarked car pulling up behind me. Because working for the nation, we have our own child welfare. We don't deal with Department of Human Services most times.
Okay.
And so I get there, and man, these deputies are like, "Man, you're in for a shit show." I was like, "Well, that's
Nice.
nice." So they're like, "Yeah, maybe we've got this old girl cuffed up in the back. Her husband's truck's got bullet holes." And so I go talk to the wife, and so in this like single wide trailer is a husband, ex-husband, ex-boyfriend, wife, and kids from ex-husband and current husband relationships
Shut the
in a
front
single
door.
wide trailer. Swear to God. A quarter of this trailer is doored off with drywall with a doggy door access because their chickens lived inside that quarter of the trailer.
No.
Yeah,
Brother,
yeah.
you're killing me.
So I'm talking to this lady. I'm like, look, what happened? And she's like, well, my husband told me he was having an affair. It's like, but lady, you've got 3 cakes and you're eating them too. So what's the deal here? And she's like, well, I told him about mine. He didn't tell me about his. I can respect that. So, so,
I'm following the logic. Okay.
so I close the door and I go talk to the husband, and he's like, yeah, man, she woke up this morning and started accusing me, and the only way I could think to get her to leave me alone was just to agree with her and say, yeah, I was talking to somebody. So she just started beating the absolute piss out of me. And it's like,
Wow.
I got to thinking to myself, she can't be mad at me if I'm not here. So he gets dressed, gets in his truck, goes to pull away, and she puts 2 rounds in his driver's side door.
Holy cow.
And I was like, lady, you do realize you can't shoot at him. She's like, well, I wasn't shooting at him. I'm shooting his direction. Man, but the bullets hit the truck. She's like, yeah, because I was aiming at the truck. I wasn't aiming at him.
Oh, she should go out for the sniper school.
Yeah. Yeah, so as of right now, in the 9 months that I've been here, that has been the icing call for me on my cake. It's
Man, that would top, I would say, the majority of the viewers. I mean, I've got some doozies in my catalog of stories, but I don't think I have anything that's pretty daggum. Chickens, ex-husband, current husband, ex-husband, ex-boyfriend, children. Wow. I mean, chickens inside. I mean, I've had chickens before in a coop out back. They're nasty animals.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Very nasty animals.
Yeah. This is beginning of summer. So it's
Oh,
pretty warm, and
oh.
my department's policy is if you've got tattoos below the elbow, you're in full sleeves. So I wear long sleeves year round. So I hadn't had gas. My car's on E, and I'm in BFE. I've had no coffee. I've had 8 ounces of pre-workout that I chugged on the way to the call. Now I'm sweating my ass off in long sleeves, and I've got to listen to this lady say that she was shooting at the truck but not shooting at her husband. It was so bad that I had to make them come to me out at the end of the driveway just so I could keep away from the flies. I mean, the smell was awful.
No, yeah, so you'd mentioned the unmarked coming in behind you. That was, I guess, the reservation's defects or Family
Well, it was
Children
the
Services.
it was actually Oklahoma DHS because they'd already had an active investigation because somebody had reported the chickens living in the house.
Do you think?
So they were there to make sure the chickens weren't in the house. And
Wow.
yeah, it's definitely been my wildest call to date since I've been with my current department.
You're going to be telling that story your entire career. I don't think you're going to get. I don't see you getting one to top that. Yeah, wow. I'm still trying to process this. Chickens. I mean, did they end up like depriving the children because of unsanitary, unsafe
Yeah, they
living conditions?
once I took the mom to the county jail, they had actually removed the kids. As far as I know, they haven't had them back. Uh, yeah, it was bad
Do, do
enough.
you do you think they'll choose the chickens over the kids?
I mean, you can eat chickens, you can't eat kids. So teach a man to fish.
Right? Okay. All right. Oh goodness. Wow. You're, I'm going to need the rights to this story. And for you pirates out there, you can't have it. I'm already calling dibs. Wow.
I would say, outside of that, I've always uh, I've always said if I don't have bad luck, I've got no luck at all. You know,
Join the club.
so to back that, my first time ever making an adult decision, I become a father, first time ever, uh, and then it just kind of was a domino effect after that, and coming into my law enforcement career, it was still that way. You know, I'd walk out thinking I was going to have the best day, and then the powers that be were like, it's not happening.
Mm.
Uh, my 22nd birthday, I worked my first homicide. I was working midnights in my first department, and I was about 2 hours away from my shift ending. We had this call come out of shots fired, just right down the road from where I was. Come to find out, this guy had seen some old boy. I guess he knew the guy personally, but he was driving past and seen his old lady's car in the driveway. Seen her leave. He waits till she leaves. He comes in, confronts the guy. They have an argument, and ultimately takes the guy's life on my 22nd birthday. I just put in for that following week of vacation. You know, I just got it signed and approved, and the powers that be were like, "Oh well, before you go on vacation, you're going to work this murder on your birthday, 2 hours before you go home." So I'm definitely, yeah, happy birthday. If I have bad luck, I've got no luck at all.
Yeah, that's it's a tough trait to have, but those watching will tell you that that's pretty common in this career field. Uh, you you work through the bad because eventually you're going to turn a corner and there'll be some good. Um, so just I hate to say it, but get used to that. That's just the way
Oh
this
yeah,
career goes. Just the way. So you're 15 or 30 minutes away from the end of the shift, and you're going to get the call that keeps you another 4 or 5 hours, and of course that's also when your kid's birthday party was going to be right after the end of your shift, and your in-laws are coming in. The president's going to visit. And all these other great things, and you're not going to be able to make it. So 4 years in, welcome to the thin blue line.
yeah. It's, man, with even with all that, man, I couldn't imagine having another career. It's from the day I started, man. It's been one thing after another, and it's extremely humbling. You know, going from what I had initially to now, and I supported my wife and my family, and like I said, I couldn't be more blessed with this opportunity.
She's a police officer as well, correct?
She is, yeah. She about a month and a half now. She got into this line of work as a dispatcher initially. She spent about a year as a dispatcher, moved on from dispatching to correctional officer, and had, in the time of her being a correctional officer, had put in an application for our hometown police department, and they called her and didn't know what to think about it at first. Most days it still scares the shit out of me seeing the
Sure.
calls. It's one thing for me to do it, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be the the breadwinner and the one that locks the door at night. So it takes a lot out of me to be okay with it. But man, she loves it. I really couldn't be more proud of her for chasing it.
Well,
Especially
that's
right
awesome.
now.
Yeah, that's great. So now you have sort of a built-in, what's the word I'm trying to find to use here? I mean, most police officers, sheriff's deputies, even federal agents don't have a support network outside of the office, if you will. It's not like they can go home and share the dark story and get it off their chest, verbalize it to help start the process for, let's say, that murder, or the death of a child, or the fiery car crash, fatality. There's nobody to talk to about it once you get home, and you're not able to start expressing those emotions and those feelings that you're dealing with, to try to process it. Now you have that, at least the ability to start that, and now she has that, and that's going to be important. And I mean, that's something the two of you. I'm not a career counselor or a family counselor, so I don't know if this constitutes as advice. Certainly not medical advice, but I would highly recommend that at least some point in time every week, y'all find time to talk about anything that's dark that's happened, that you've been exposed to, because PTSD isn't just for combat veterans. Not to take anything away from the experiences that combat veterans have, but that whole PTSD has been opened up, and there's a lot more involved in that. And invisible wounds are those that you don't get asked about because nobody sees them. So from the Knock and Talk show, and all of us here being me, I would recommend that you take advantage of now this built-in support network that the both of you have. That's good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely try to help each other decompress. My other two departments, I was always that guy that checked on everybody. I say my previous two, mainly my previous department. Growing up, that was always something to be laughed at. If you felt like you had things that you needed to talk about, and
Sure.
so mental health has always been a big thing for me. And even before law enforcement, when I was discharged from training, I'd met a guy at retention, and we'd become really close friends. He battled a lot with depression and stuff like that. He, we both got out, went home, and he was the type of guy that I could not talk to him for a year. Hit his phone up, and he'd be at my door. No questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had both talked about getting into law enforcement together. And he lived in southern Texas. And the same week that I was given my first badge from my first department, I found out that he'd killed himself. He had taken his life.
That's rough. I'm sorry.
It was one of those things that up until that point, I always felt like I was too good to admit that I had an issue. So I didn't talk about a whole lot. When I first started in this career, I just told myself that, hey, it's going to happen. You're just going to have to suck it up, get over it. Uh, and then going back to my previous department, I was allowed the opportunity to train and manage some of their newly uncertified guys, and seeing how much they had leaned on me, even me being, fresh in my career, enough to trust me and confide when they were struggling, really gave me. Uh, I'd say it was an eye opener for me, to have these other people that didn't really know me from Adam trust me enough to come to me and say, "Hey, I've got issues." So when I come to my department now, I'm extremely blessed. Uh, my brass is all about mental health, taking care of us on the street, at home. Uh, so it's definitely something I'm not embarrassed to be a part of, when it comes to
That's
mental
good.
health. To the point so much that, I mean, every Friday I drive an hour just to go see a therapist, and it may be that
Good.
I have nothing to talk about. Most times, we'll talk about the work week and how my wife and kids are doing, and there's times that I'll just sit, and I'll just listen. Uh,
Mm.
but like I said, it's extremely blessed and humbling, uh, to be at a department now that takes mental health serious. And now that my wife is in it as well, that's something I'm an extremely big supporter on. And I'm sure, when you've seen my post and had reached out to me, uh, I'm all
Yeah. So
about.
tell the story. Um, because we have a mutual friend on Facebook, and I actually saw his post first, and I won't use his name, um, but I saw his post where he had mentioned his conversation with you and how much of a blessing that was to have that encounter with you and what that meant to him. So if you'd like, without using his name, but share that experience. That's I enjoyed reading it. I mean, it was just a short little post, but that's what made me reach out to you to get you on the show. So tell us about that, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I come to this department, I've got more jurisdiction, um, for one, which gives me the ability, if we're not hammered with calls or doing follow ups, if we're just, driving around our assignment, it gives me a bigger opportunity to try and network with people that have some type of story that they want to get out or they've gotten out. So at that time, when he and I had first become friends on Facebook, I was going through a really really rough patch mentally. I was questioning my faith. Honestly, I can't tell you the last time I stepped into a church. Um, so I, I was scrolling through Facebook, and for some reason he'd come up in my recommended. And I just had this gut feeling. I was like, man, I really need to add this guy. Send him a friend request and reach out to him. And I'd never met him before that. I'd never spoken with him, never seen his post, what he was about. And yeah, it was the moment that I sent that friend request and got the notification that he'd accepted it. Then I started going back and looking at his testimony and where he'd come from and how big of a supporter he is with suicide, PTSD, with first responders and service members. And I felt like I needed to reach out and tell him that he helped motivate me at that point in time, because during that time I was really debating on just cutting my loss, uh, getting out of law enforcement. I almost lost my marriage. You know, I was going through a really bad spot, and it almost cost me more than I wanted to admit. Uh, so seeing another adult coming out and saying, "Hey, it's not a bad thing to admit that you have problems or that you need somebody to talk to or that you have to reach out," you know. So that helped me make the decision to look after my own mental health. Because again, at the time, I was still just blowing it off as I can be there for everybody else, but I don't need anybody there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'd gone to the squad room one night. This was shortly after I'd reached out to him, and my sergeant walked in, and he hadn't even sat down yet. Just had enough time to walk into the room and said, "Man, we need to talk. Tell me what's going on." And I told him, I was like, "Man, I'm not good right now. I need to try and get some help. I need somebody to talk to, somebody to, even if they can't help, I just need somebody to listen." He's like, "Man, you're in a place now where we can take care of you." Uh, So I'm extremely blessed that I had the opportunity to meet up with him. And even more so now, I try to look for people that are on social media that I can maybe share my story with, or learn how to use the way they coped with theirs and apply it, so that I might be able to push it forward when an opportunity comes for me to help somebody else. Uh, we had that one encounter, man. I'd say he's probably one of the greater men that I've had the opportunity of speaking with, and it makes it a lot easier for me uh, to continue with my mental health, being able to talk about it, try and reach out to other people. Uh, so he's definitely one of the stepping stones in my process, for sure.
That's great. Yeah, I saw both sides to that. His first, and then yours, and I was I was moved in how the two of y'all ended up, at the same place at the same time, and how that came about. So, um, yeah, as you mentioned, mental health is something that a lot of police officers or law enforcement, to include other first responders as well, EMS, I mean, and fire. Those folks see a lot of bad as well. It's important to be able to share and talk, and sometimes you just need to listen. There were times that I was single for a long time in my law enforcement career, and I just um, had to come home and just veg for a while, take the uniform off, sit on the couch. And when I got married to my amazing wife, Sam, she's been, she was a huge supporter when we first got together, and I told her from the beginning, so there are some days when I come home, I'm just going to need to sit on the couch for a couple minutes and work my way out of the things that happened at work, so that I can be your husband. But there's a transition period sometimes. But anyway, I'm glad you had that experience, and thanks for coming on the show and sharing such a personal struggle. You aren't alone. There are probably more out there that, like you, don't want to admit to it, and they should. So hopefully, in hearing this reaches somebody. And if anybody has nowhere else to turn to, you can find both of us, and certainly me, on social media, and reach out. God gave me big ears. Here, I'll show you. So I am certainly equipped to listen, and I'll employ the active listening skills that I've learned in my law enforcement career to just be there. So if anybody needs it, reach out, and that goes for you too, bud. If moving forward, if you got nobody else, or you need somebody different, feel free to reach out. I'll be here.
Yeah, 100%, man. I don't have a lot of social media. I say I don't. All I really use is Facebook. I mean, if there's anybody that's listening or finds us after the fact, I'm 100% perfectly fine with them reaching out. If I'm not at work, I'm with my kids. If I'm not with my kids, I'm gaming. So you can find me at one of the three. But absolutely, if there's anybody listening that feels like they need to get something off their chest, or if they're struggling like I was, I'm 100% not against opening up my phone or my time to help in any way that I can. So
that's awesome. We need more of that. And I'm glad, in recording yesterday's episode 2, with Matt Warren, we talked about how the platform for this show is the funny stuff, like your chickens and all those cookies you got to deliver. Because those are the stories that we want to share. Those are the ones that you're sitting around with either new people, non-law enforcement people. You tend to be the center of attention as everybody wants to hear the funny stories that you encounter. But now in the third episode, just like I realized in film or recording the second one yesterday, this show has the ability to potentially reach others and offer an avenue or a conduit to share a story such as yours, the darker side. Um, and I'm not going to pigeonhole this show to just the funny stuff. This is the purpose of the show. However, every police officer, fireman, EMS, and certainly our combat veterans, we all have a form of PTSD. We all had something in that career that we're still carrying around. I mean, I spent a year and a half in Special Victims Unit. There are stories I can't share with anybody because one, I don't want to open that door back up and go into those dark hallways. Two, nobody wants to hear those stories. So this show I think is hopefully going to grab a lot of traction and offer opportunities for people to share both the good and the bad. But there's more bad stories than there are good stories in our career, and that's why I wanted to focus on the funny and not all the bad stuff. But certainly that is open should anybody want to discuss it. And PTSD is real, and it is an invisible wound that doesn't heal very well. So thanks for sharing again. I really do.
I appreciate the chance, man.
We've talked about quite a lot. We've been on for an hour, and this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything that you wanted to plug or mention from your personal experiences or anything like that before we get going?
I can't say right off the top of my head. No, not really.
Okay. Well, Dakota, thank you again for taking time out of your day. It's what, 12 noon, high noon your time?
It's about 1:10 here.
Oh, so you're only an hour behind. Okay. I didn't realize you were in Central. All right. Well, is today an off day?
It is, fortunately. Yeah. We have
Awesome.
3-day weekends here, so
Shut the
works
front
out pretty
door.
well.
Nice. So you work 4 and 3?
Yeah, we work 4 10s, 3 off, and then most times if we're lucky we got our birthdays off, and it's yeah, man, it's one of the best departments I could probably ever ask for, and if I have my way they'll have to bury me. So I don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
Well, the next time I'm out in the Show Me State, I'll have to look you up. I'd like to do a ride along, see what res life is like.
Hey, it's doable, man. Just
All right.
holler at me and we can get the forms together.
All right. Well, likewise, if if you're interested in being on the show again, I'd love to have you back. This was a great rap session, if you will. I certainly enjoyed learning about Cookie and his chickens. And brother, you be safe. Again, I appreciate the time and thanks for sharing your very personal story. If you ever need anything on the East Coast in the hot Atlanta area, just reach out. In the meantime, again, be safe. Happy early birthday and enjoy your 3-day weekend.
Thank you, sir. Man, I appreciate it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk soon, bud.
Have a good one.